thank you all for attending. And it was a great discussion that we just had virtually, but I think always being in person to a certain extent is better. So thank you all for the panelists for being here today. We're going to be discussing a little bit about that transition, right, from Web 2 to Web 3. And maybe we give just a chance for our panelists to introduce themselves very quickly. So maybe Christian, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I'm Christian Papathanasiou. I'm the CTO and co-founder of a company called FinVault. We're based here in Dubai, and we're building basically a platform that bridges the gap between Web 2 banking and Web 3 banking. We're effectively creating a platform that allows you to very easily and very safely and very securely access Web 3 finance.
Hi, I'm Kaylee, and I'm Chief of Staff at Decentology. And a little bit about Decentology, what we're building is something called the Hyperverse. The Hyperverse is an open, decentralized platform for web developers to build Web3 applications at speed. And on the Hyperverse, what you can do is, deeper into Hyperverse, it's a marketplace of smart modules where developers can piece those modules together similar to Lego blocks.
Hello everyone, my name is Sen, and I'm CEO and founder of Passenger.com, and we are bringing attention capital back to the people from the corporations, and we also try to decentralize the personal data ownership, also bring it back to people and the profit from this. You can find us in Passenger.com. Thank you.
Hi everyone. My name is Ignis Charinas. I'm the head of communications of Bybit. Bybit is the world's third most visited crypto exchange and a major supporter infrastructure provider of the Web3 world.
Hello everyone. My name is Pavel. I'm the product manager of Fast Token, and we're building a very large blockchain/crypto ecosystem with multiple products, including a cryptocurrency exchange, our own NFT marketplace, our own blockchain solution, the FTN cryptocurrency, and payment solutions both online and offline.
Hi everyone, my name is Samir. I lead public policy and expansion at a company called BitOasis. BitOasis is the leading platform in the region that enables individuals, approximately 250,000 people across the GCC and MENA, to buy, sell and hold virtual assets, cryptocurrencies. We were very proud to be here. We're born in Dubai. We're from the United Arab Emirates, so looking forward to this conversation and sharing some of the regional experiences that we're seeing in terms of adoption across our ecosystem.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much. And our panelists here today come from such diverse backgrounds and even representing such diverse companies as well. Maybe Samir, start from yourself and this kind of transformation from Web 2 to Web 3. We were talking a little bit earlier about your pivot from the traditional world to now, let's say, the Web 3 world. How did that happen? Can you tell us a bit more about why you joined this space?
Was our journey?
Yeah, how you kind of, or why you decided to join the Web 3 revolution.
Oh yeah. So I'm a public policy person. I don't know if people were listening to the other public policy person, the gentleman from Coinbase who was talking beforehand. But I think when you look at regulation, when you look at policy, when you look at this sector, we are at a pivotal moment in how regulators and policymakers across our region are thinking about enabling Web 3.0. I see it from the lens of a crypto platform. But I think, to reiterate what the gentleman was saying earlier, there is a high level of momentum within certain markets in our region where we're seeing the acceleration of policymakers embracing regulation and regulatory frameworks for our activity. Dubai and markets like the UAE being one example, but on the flip side of this, what is specific, or what we see in our region as well, is that there are markets that are currently blocked or restricted, right? Where where activity in virtual assets, related activities is completely blocked. So for example, Egypt, Morocco, Pakistan. And so from our perspective, or from a regulatory or policy perspective, I think what we're seeing is, and it's a concern, right? We're seeing markets like the UAE embrace as they should. And the benefit of that is we have sessions like this here, you have foreign direct investment, you have adoption, right? You have mass adoption, which is what we're talking about. But you're also seeing this two-track scenario where, markets like Pakistan, Egypt, Morocco, the populace, individuals are blocked from formally engaging with this sector. And the worry is you're creating a two-track world, right? Where some people are enabled for adoption, they benefit from exposure to the world that is being built, and some people are blocked out or are pushed out and are moved offshore onto peer-to-peer higher-risk platforms. So I think, globally, as the gentleman was saying before, you are seeing this trend. But, there are hiccups. There are, in some markets where, especially across our region, you've got this diversity of accelerated embracing of policy and regulatory frameworks, which you're seeing in the UAE, but also, the opposite end of the spectrum, which is just we're blocking our citizens from engaging in this type of activity, which of course never works.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much. And Pavel, so you decided to establish your project, Fast Token, here in Dubai. I mean, and you're following this push, as Samir was mentioning. Why did you potentially decide to kind of establish yourselves here, and why did you decide to launch this project in the first place?
As you said, sir, UAE is one of the countries that's very open to innovation, very open to technology, and they're ready to embrace it. If they're not experienced in it, they don't know what they're doing, they're not afraid of it, they'll take the time, they'll put in the effort, and they'll learn, and they'll try to regulate. But in terms of that's one of the main reasons why we started to work with UAE and wanted to base the company here, just because it's a very open-minded, very forward-looking area. But as you said, it's a problem that not all jurisdictions even have some kind of a common take on how they are planning to regulate cryptocurrencies, virtual assets, and regulation is getting more and more important as time goes by. So, which goes kind of against a bit the concepts of Web 3.0, right? Web 3.0 teaches us that, it doesn't teach, but wants to say that there should be decentralization in a lot of aspects, in a lot of platforms, in a lot of stuff that we do. But regulation and decentralization kind of do not go hand in hand, so there's a lot of conflict in that area, and that's why I think that we still have a very, very long way to go just to be able to implement Web 3.0 from the point of being a nice concept into something that we can actually use. Because I'm a very practical person. I like to do and I like to work with things that I can actually use. And I don't really see right now how we're going to do that, but steps like the government of UAE that is taking is a big move towards making the progress. That's what I think.
Okay, no, fantastic. Thank you so much. And so, because you're representing, a leader in the space, Bybit, which has really proven to be a pioneer in what you're doing. Have you seen yourselves establish within, let's say, this Web3 revolution, and how do you see yourselves kind of growing now in the space from all that you've built?
Sorry, I didn't. I think that the echo is
a little bit of an echo. Bybit, leader in this space. How do you see yourselves pushing even further from what you've already innovated?
Sure, of course. I think we are a centralized player. There's no denying that. But what we see the future is something that is truly decentralized. But not everyone is ready for a decentralized world yet. People come from different backgrounds. They have different skill level. They have different knowledge level. We cannot hope just to kind of push decentralization onto everyone and suddenly everyone will just embrace it in a moment's notice. What we see ourselves is a bridging agent. We are a guide, a guardian, someone who will basically help people of any knowledge level, any skill level to find something that they can use, a piece of Web3 application, a piece of Web3 innovation that can be useful to them, kind of get them hooked onto this idea first. Bitcoin started as just kind of internet magic money, and it was full of speculation. But people who got into Bitcoin, they started to learn about coding, they started to learn about financial literacy, and then even if poof, tomorrow Bitcoin goes away, of course it won't. We are still left with all those knowledge that we accumulated, all those financial, technological knowledge accumulated. Even if it went away, it would have been a positive good. So how we see ourselves is really, we just want to kind of bring more people to the space, because what we think truly has value, in addition to the token value, the technology stack itself, is the people. The more people you have in the space, the more innovations that you can have, the more jobs it will create, the more benefit it will bring to the wider society, and we want to be a catalyst in that innovation drive.
Moving forward, fantastic. And so, Stan, we were discussing a little bit about what you're doing, and the byproduct of Web 2 has been the data that the internet has created, right? And all these big companies now having control over your data, etc. And so, and what you're building, I'll let you explain a little bit more in detail as well, is really innovative for the Web3 space. And so, can you maybe provide the audience today with a little bit more information and context about the importance of what you're building?
The importance, I think it's the right word, because we all speak about the Web3, right? But some of the people, like 99%, think that this is kind of the future. This is kind of the privilege that some crypto enthusiasts thinking and working on. Only very little amount of people understand why we need Web3 and why we need decentralization itself. So I think the problem why it's moved quite low, because Web3 was created not in this year and not in previous, it's because people do not understand the meaning and the importance. So I think we all speak about the metaverse now, but I think we should more speak about the meta crisis that we have. So, and decentralization is the only way to solve this meta crisis, which is fail of crops, epidemic, global warming, politics, possibility of nuclear war. It's a lot of extinctional event that can happen in the next 20 years. So, and because of some systems still very centralized, politician system, even a media system that can block some users who they don't like, or just they cut the whole informational flow. So I think that we should understand that decentralization in all kind of types, even move more political power to the woman, it's also part of decentralization. So we should understand the importance. And after we understand and formulate, so we should come to the new social class. It's called netocracy. It's the new class after the bourgeois, after the capitalists. I would say one example. The Facebook has 2 billion audience, or maybe 2.5. Top 100 influencers, just 100 people in the world, they have 2.5 billion audience. If you convince 100 people in Web3 ideology how it can help us to survive as a species and stop the wars or stop this media totalitarianship, these 100 people will convince the whole world. So the way I think we should understand importance, make it as a manifest, a new word, and then we should just go and influence these influencers. This just new class. 100 people can change everything like this. Wow. It's not a big number. So, and then I think everything should change. What we see now from the media side, this is Cambridge Analytics, Facebook papers, that's what's happened. It's all part of this crisis, right? When companies decide what kind of content 2 billion people should see, what kind of content they should not see. It's created hate speech, it's created a lot of difficult trends. So in Web3, you do not have this because you have the more democratic tech society, more education people. So yeah, basically that's what I want to say, like importance, and then we should go to these netocrats. That's bring. We should send message to them. That's what actually our product do, but I already told about this. So, and the mission is to change the vibes what influencers or politicians or media companies send to the people, because now they all send just commercial vibes, sending the brand contracts, just move attention like it's belong to them, right? Like hypnotists. So in Web3, we can skip it. And I hope we will do it. That's why we're here, right?
That's why we're here together. No, I think it's very interesting to hear the flip side of the coin, right? We often hear about metaverse and pushing forward, but sometimes we can't leave behind what has already been created there as well. And I think none of that could be created without building first, right? And I think this is, Kaylee, where I think you come in with what you're creating at Decentology. Maybe you can talk to us about the importance of building, right? The builders, the devs, the actual people behind it. It's not just those on stage speaking, there's also people actually building. So maybe you can tell us about that.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we can have all these users, but we need developers building. So at Decentology, we're focusing on onboarding developers, as I said earlier. And in order to do that, we are building the Hyperverse, as I mentioned. And the Hyperverse is a marketplace of smart modules where any developer, Web 2 dev, Web 3 dev, all you need to know is JavaScript, and you can just piece together those modules and build applications. So yeah, I think the developer tooling isn't there yet, and there's still a need for that. We see at Decentology, we talk to a lot of these Web 2 developers that, it's hard for them to get started. The onboarding ramps aren't there. There's still confusion about what Web 3 is. I mean, some of these concepts are even so hard to understand for anyone getting in the space. Like, we have so many terms like NFTs, DAOs, DeFi, placing all this jargon, and it's hard for new people to understand what all this means, and then on top of that to tell them to learn all these new languages and how to build on the blockchain, and there's so many different chains. So I think that's tough for developers, and which is why at Decentology we're focusing on making it easier for developers to build. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to come with time and just more education and really making the user experience easier, getting more people onboarded. For example, I know some companies right now, they're trying to onboard other users by, I guess Solana Pay, for example, they're marketing to consumers and marketing to small businesses to get them onboarded into the crypto space. So as we see more companies, protocols starting to market to consumers and market to people that aren't in the space, and the attention economy, the creator economy, bringing NFT artists in, bringing musicians or music artists into the space, we're going to start to see more people get involved, and in turn, education will come and developers will come with that as well.
Wow, thank you so much. I mean, it's providing such wide perspectives. I think, I hope, Christian, you still have a lot to say. There's a lot that has been said. I mean, tell us more, Finvolt, what you're building.
Yeah, sure. So I'll explain what Finvolt is, but first I want a quick show of hands. How many of you believe that basically Web3 is the future of banking? Yeah, pretty much everybody in the room, right? So how many of you have tried to use a Web3 product? Yep. How hard was it? Because the last time I tried to use a Web3 product, going from my bank account all the way to Sushi Swap or whatever swap it was, I remember I had to take 13 steps. I remember that I had to connect my bank account, send my coins to whatever exchange it was. I had to pass their KYC. I then had to buy some Ethereum, send it from the exchange to my MetaMask. I then, from my MetaMask, had to go to whatever DEX it was. I then had to approve the contract, maybe bridge my tokens over. It goes on. And eventually, I got my very, very cool token, right? From start to finish, there was like 13 steps involved in that. And every single provider along the way charged me like 2 to 3%. And we actually calculated it. Like $1,000 would see us like 13% fees in total, including my credit card fees.
Wow.
So how cool would it be, right? If we all believe the future of finance is Web3, if there's an intermediary step, a Web 2.5, that helps bridge the gap between the two and makes it super easy for us to get access to that. Web3 is amazing. We're all bullish on crypto. We're all big believers in crypto, and many of us have been in crypto for a very long time, including myself. But we form a very, 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 very small minority of people. To get mass adoption, to get us to where we need for crypto to be used by my grandmother or my parents or people who don't understand crypto, but understand web banking, you need to give them something they're used to. And something they're used to involves amazing UI UX, involves education, holding their hand from one side to the other. It involves security, trust, regulation, user education, all of those great things. And that's what we're building in FinVault. That's what FinVault is. That's what we're building. And all of these amazing companies and all the representatives of these companies to my right, they're part of that ecosystem. And we're all trying to build that step to help us bridge the gap and make this ecosystem accessible to everybody.
Wow, thank you, inspiring. Web 2.5.
We need a Web 2.5. We need something to help bridge that gap. And so, for example, you need that user education element. If I want to use a Web3 banking product, why should I create my own wallet? Why should I even need to think about that? Why can't I sign up with my Gmail account or whatever it is? It's so pervasive. It's such an amazing form of authentication right now. Yes, fine. You want to sign up with your MetaMask account, you can do that. You can, you don't trust us, you want non-custodial, whatever, you can sign up to your MetaMask, you can go ahead and do it. But we need something that helps onboard the masses, right? And give them access to Web3 in a way that doesn't slow them down, doesn't stand in their way, and gives them all the benefits of Web3 in a Web 2 world that they're used to. And I think that's extremely powerful. We're very bullish on it. And all businesses that really want to be successful in this field have to take the long journey, right? They need to do the hard work. There's no shortcuts. You need to get your regulation right. You need to get your licenses. You need to get your compliance right, These are fundamental things to building long-term sustainable businesses. So that's what I believe.
Yeah, thank you. And maybe I'll just bounce off that when you mentioned there's no shortcuts, right? And you have to go through the right steps. Maybe we can throw the ball right back to you, Samir here, on the regulatory standpoint, from the perspective of the authorities. I mean, you can't cut any shortcuts here. I mean, how do you see Web3 being regulated when you've been speaking with authorities here in Dubai and potentially in other jurisdictions? I mean, how are they looking at Web3? Are they a bit more apprehensive? Are they trying to understand? How do you see things?
So I think, generally in the UAE and in Dubai, you're seeing a very forward-looking mindset to do with regulating Web 3.0 activity, right? And clearly the benefits are, there is competition amongst regulators and competition amongst jurisdictions across the world as to who is going to regulate, who is going to deliver the frameworks for this industry to work globally, right? And Dubai and the UAE have set out their stall and are trying to do that. And I think everyone in the ecosystem here is very, very supportive of these moves. I think, a thought, right, is that one of the things that, for BitOasis and for other players in the ecosystem in the UAE that makes it exciting is, you have regulation and everyone wants to be regulated, right? You want to be able to offer your services in a way where consumers are protected, and regulation will drive uptake of the ecosystem, right? So if companies are regulated, banks may start to work with them, et cetera, et cetera. So that is an end goal that I think we're all looking to work towards. I think the question, or a question that maybe policymakers can ask themselves is, regulation doesn't happen overnight, right? It takes a little while. And what are you doing to enable activity and to invite activity across this ecosystem prior to regulation coming into effect, right? And there are two ways you can think about this, or you can look at it. And I'll talk to our experience in Dubai and the United Arab Emirates, right? So our operations as a crypto platform in the UAE were enabled by the government, right? There was no high-level licensing or regulatory framework. But the signals from the government and government entities were, let's figure out a way to make this work. Let's figure out a way to make you report to us whilst we think of regulations, right? And I think the signals that policymakers and governments send out to the Web 3.0 ecosystem and crypto community are extremely important, and those tend to precede regulations, right? It's, are you open to activity? Okay, we don't have the regulation for this, but we welcome you to operate in this market. And that's super important. I think that's what you're seeing in this market. And of course, what that allows, what that means is when you see an ecosystem developing around you, as you're seeing in the UAE, and markets that are enabling pre-regulation, that ultimately means that the regulatory frameworks are much better, right? Yeah. Because they're built on local use cases, local learnings, etc. And I think, that's the benefit of what we're beginning to see in some markets across our region.
Fantastic. Now understood. I mean, Rome wasn't built in a day, so how can the crypto oasis be either? And so, maybe Pablo here. I mean, you are one of the use cases. Have you felt support from the authorities here? I mean, you felt
absolutely. Actually, as I mentioned, they're very willing. So there is this thing that the machine of the crypto and blockchain space is already set in motion. So, and you're not gonna stop it like with no effort. Basically, you can't stop it. It's already too big. And what UAE is doing is with every such machine, this time is the crypto space, is the blockchain space, they decide to get on the front line and learn and sit down, get their teams together, get their heads together, and think how they can make the most out of it in terms of investment, in terms of foreign investment, in terms of prestige. And they're willing to work with you. They're willing to listen, learn, understand, help, guide, whatever is needed to get the things going into the right direction, which is, at the end of the day, which is like business happening, right? So if it's happening, if it's regulated, then the regulator is happy, then you're happy, then the users are happy, and everybody's happy. So, and everybody's earning their share. So that's what I've felt from working with the UAE government. They're willing to help and willing to take the calculated risks, let's say, with innovative spheres such as crypto space and blockchain technologies. And that's very, very good for it, very healthy for the whole space, versus some jurisdictions who simply say, you know, we're not going to deal with any of this, we're just going to ban this forever, we're going to block it. And even if when they do, citizens of such jurisdictions still use cryptocurrencies to some extent. They still want to invest, they still want to buy, they still want to be part of something which is getting bigger and bigger as days go by, even if they don't really understand it fully, or some do, some don't, doesn't really matter, but they want it, and it's important to give them like a chance, a road, a way through which they can do it actually. So.
Fantastic. Well, it's wonderful to hear, and I think it's due to this openness that everybody is here in this room today. And I am from Switzerland, so I'm going to be very cautious about the time. We do only have 8 or so minutes left, so we'll try and wrap things up slowly but surely here. I mean, Ignis, maybe you can give us the final kind of perspective now, like from kind of Bybit being really an industry leader, as we mentioned before, of where you see kind of yourselves progressing and kind of, the future for you.
The future, like Web3 and metaverse and all those buzzwords have been on people's mind a lot. I think that is a very good guiding post. So like you have innovations already coming into place, you have investment, and some of the largest VC funds that we are talking to, they are all allocating into this space. What I think is, like, you know, exactly as my fellow panelists said, like you need very friendly and embracive like policymakers and jurisdictions to allow for those innovations to happen. And I think, you know, policymakers and regulators who are willing to learn about new things, keep an open mind, will really allow those innovations to happen on shore and allow those innovations to kind of like cross-pollinate amongst one another. Some of the, you know, countries have talked about crypto banning kind of like certain elements of crypto, but you know, in the end, people are still going to be using it. What you're going to do is essentially ban, like when you look at from the long horizon, you're banning your own people from this future of money, future of the web. I think, you know, the idea of like people now talk more about Web3 than crypto in some corridors is actually good. It's almost like crypto is rebranding itself as Web3, and I think it's in a way it's actually a very good rebranding. You know, basically like people, because people didn't really understand crypto. Most of the world don't understand crypto in the first place. We like to think, you know, crypto is now mainstream, but when we really look at global adoption rates, less than 4% of the people in the world have had crypto adoption, and many people still don't understand it. But no one can possibly say the internet is bad now. So, you know, in a way, you say, you know, Web3 crypto is the next logical advancement of the internet. It kind of like gets more purchase, gets more currency in like areas where it's difficult to reach, and, you know, talk about influence the influencers. I like that quote. It's from Edward Bernays, one of the most notorious but one of the most influential people who ever you know, lived. He was the inventor of pretty much public relations, but first he called it propaganda. That became a bad word. He rebranded it. So, you know, like, I think, you know, we can kind of take down humility like that as well. You know, if like there are a lot of like terminology in crypto that is not really friendly, like NFTs, non-fungible tokens. We understand it. We talk about all day long, but try to explain that to some old grammar. So, like, I think, you know, perhaps we don't have to just stick to the first thing that we call ownership to. We can actually, you know, continuously rebrand and re-innovate, and, you know, be willing to kind of throw away some of the things that's not working and try new things.
No, I see. I mean, yeah, maybe Web3 has become a bit mainstream. Maybe we can talk about Web4 a little bit now. And probably we're actually discussing this a little bit before.
We still try to get Web3. You already want to jump Web3. I agree with you about the branding, like from the crypto to Web3, but I even want to push forward, and for people who do not understand what is Web3, we need to have the only one point. Today, media, social medias, and all kind of medias so deep influence the whole global society, it's almost equal. You say Web3, you say humanity 3, you say Web3, you say social 3. So it's not about the web, it's not about the technology, it's about the structure of our society. In the core of the structure is the media, is our social networks. And if we switch our attention from the web and technology of this side to the social side, and we say social tree, it will become much easier to people understand what's happened, like what we're gonna do. We're gonna decentralize the power, not technology, the energy, the power that go through technology. So, and about the Web 4, I think it's obviously, it's already was tested, right? Elon Musk create this Neuralink, so we all being connected. Today, we all intersect, is the might possible way ever exist. And if we will have Neuralink, if we connect our brain into the device, next stage will be not internet, but interbrain. So we can connect it into the brain, and we will have not the discussion, not the panel discussion, but panel thinking. We will just sit and think, and then we will laugh. Everyone start laughing, and then we will cry. I think it will be much more easy to understand without the borders of language if people can be just connected to each other with this Neuralink. But it's maybe next year, right? Not today.
Next year.
Yeah.
Crypto moves pretty fast, maybe.
Not so fast. So, but about the rebranding, yes, my point is we should to switch from this all deep technology side that nobody will understand never to the social side and to say Web3 equals social 3. So this is the point of the next.
Thank you. Wow, it's amazing. And I mean, Kaylee, yourself coming from San Francisco, it's a 15-hour flight all the way here. I mean, what are some of the key takeaways for you when somebody back in the valley is going to ask you? I mean, you just went to Dubai. What would you give them as like some key takeaways from your trip here?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, like coming from San Francisco, just going to conferences all around, I think it's different everywhere you go. I think one of the key takeaways just looking at Web 2 versus Web 3 is, Web 3 is moving so fast. People are building so fast, so many different applications. And the reason I think I would say people are moving faster in Web 3 is because there are lower barriers to entry. You look at Web 2 and even traditional finance, in order to get involved, you need, for example, invest in a company, you need to be an accredited investor and all these other regulations involved. And then moving into the Web3 space, there are low barriers to entry. You can just, as a developer, you can start building. As an investor, you can start investing. And as, there are applications or there are protocols where you can easily, without putting in any, your social security number or any details, you can get a loan easily. And because of this, because of the low barriers to entry, I think that we're seeing so many different applications. And in terms of different parts of the world, we're seeing, here in Dubai, people are using crypto differently than other countries in Latin America. People are using it differently. And in the US, it's different. So I think because of this, the low barriers to entry, there's so much innovation, and more people in the space leads to more competition. And, with more competition, ultimately, at the end of the day, we're going to have just more advanced application, more advanced ideas, and we're going to move faster and innovate more quickly, I'd say.
Wow, thank you. Wonderful. And so, Chris, I mean, you spoke about disintermediation, kind of Web 2.5. And disintermediation doesn't necessarily mean letting people go, right? It doesn't mean like just kind of leaving these intermediaries out. The Web3 space is very much inclusive. How do you see kind of everyone in this room and everyone within those wider ecosystems in terms of that might be still Web 2? How do you believe they can still kind of enter this Web 3 space in an inclusive manner?
Yeah, absolutely. There's disintermediation, but that's not what this is about. It's all about bringing everybody along and holding their hands along this journey into the Web3 world. And there's space for every single incumbent, a Web2 incumbent, to enter the Web3 space. It takes the right building blocks like decentrology. It takes the right financial rails like FinVault that will enable you to easily access Web3 products and systems. It takes the right social media that protects your privacy like Passenger and so on and so forth. but there's space for all existing incumbents to enter this world. And actually, it would be disingenuous for any of us to think that they should be left outside and not included. There's tremendous trillions of dollars of worth of intellectual and capital that's been built over decades and millenniums inside these incumbent institutions, and they play a vital role inside this economy. It's about taking all of those building blocks that exist, putting them together and connecting them to Web3. That's what we're doing in FinVault. By the way, before we part, we got some t-shirts that my team will be handing out if you guys want any, in the back.
Thank you so much. And wonderful. I mean, you heard it here from Chris. Thank you so much for the summary. And thank you to all our panelists. There's room for everybody, so keep building in this space and hopefully see you soon. Thank you.